Why is nobody recording strikeouts in the Mariners rotation all of a sudden?
That's the $1 million question. I think there's a couple things. I think it's partially matchup. I think it is partially fatigue from your two youngest arms. And I think it is partially pitching style for certain pitchers, as we've highlighted. So, let's look at the easiest one to look at of why there's not many strikeouts. Bryan Woo, come on down. You're contestant number one. Bryan Woo, across his last 6 starts, has had 2 separate outings where he's not struck out a single batter. About a month ago, he faced the Arizona Diamondbacks, had no strikeouts, and his latest start against the Cincinnati Reds on Monday, no strikeouts across 5 innings. He had, in between those starts, he had 5 strikeouts versus the Oakland A's, 3 versus the Chicago White Sox, and 6 versus the Angels. Bryan Woo's not he's not Spencer Strider. Let's just get that out. He's not going to strike out 245 batters, and Strider's 140 innings he's got this year. That's not going to be the case. But if you take a look at Bryan Woo's velocity chart, if you take a look at some of his command models, if you look at just anything that looks at consistency, you'll see that Bryan Woo's got a downtrend going this direction. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. If you're listening, I would go check us out on YouTube so you can see me pointing down. He's getting a little tired, and I think that comes with the territory. The matchups, again, don't help him all that much because some of those teams are pretty good contact teams as well, but it's also a deterioration of stuff a little bit as well. It's getting late in the season. These guys are getting a little tired.
So if you stretch out the 4 starts that Luis, Kirby, Woo, and Miller made in both the Mets series and the Red series combined in those 4 games, they struck out 7 hitters. Like 4 separate starters combined to strike out 7 hitters. That's not good. That's not enough strikeouts. And I can already hear some of the baseball boomers out there kind of shaking their fist and say, well, what's wrong with some ground balls? What's wrong with letting the guys put the ball in play and relying on your defense? I'm also thinking of that Kevin Costner quote, the Crash Davis quote from Bull Durham, where, what does he say? He says, get some ground balls. It's more democratic. Have you seen Bull Durham, by the way?
I have. It's been forever.
Okay. Great baseball movie. There is a reason that teams value strikeouts so highly these days. It is, and it's not because they look cool and are fancy. No, it's because they are much more self-dependent than relying on anybody else and having bad luck factors play into things. Strikeouts are the most efficient way to get guys out, and you don't have to worry about anything else. It is all on you. And when you have guys that can strike batters out, it kind of when you have guys that can strike batters out, it is much easier for the flow of the game to swing in your direction for the most part.
Here, Lyle, let me help you win this argument in one stat.
Okay.
If you look at the top 10 teams in strikeout percentage, 9 of the top 10 are in playoff position. There you go. That's it. That's all you need. You're welcome.
Strikeouts correlate to success. You want to be mad about that? Go ask the baseball gods if you're a baseball boomer. Well, what's wrong with putting the ball in play? No, strikeouts translate to success. And there is a reason that over these 4 games that were started by Luis and Kirby in Queens and then Woo and Miller in Cincinnati, the team did not fare well. And they weren't striking guys out. When these guys are striking out hitters, things usually go a lot differently.
Now, if I think for a guy like Kirby, the best attribute about him is that he can go distance, right? And he's, as we've noted, he's not the biggest strikeout guy in the world. He is a guy that if he's not striking guys out, he's, for the most part, doing okay. Sometimes that's not always the case. But a lot of the times, he only strikes out 7 Orioles, but he goes 9 shutout, and that's probably the most dominant outing we've seen all season by a Mariners starter. Again, while only striking out 7 batters. You can absolutely function without strikeouts. But you watch those 4 games, Lyle, were the Mariners pitchers functioning in those 4 starts? Last 2 against the Mets, first 2 against the Reds? No, not really.
I mean, they were functioning. It's not like they got injured. They were out there pitching, but it wasn't translating to much success. I'll tell you, their win percentage was not going up in those games.
No, if we look at Bryce Miller on Tuesday versus the Reds, you'd say, oh, wow, he went 5-1. Well, who cares if he only struck out 2? It's like, okay, did you watch any of that? Like, he probably should have given up more than one run, that's for sure.
Oh, I think Bryce Miller's expected batting average at the end of those 5 innings was close to 400.
I think it was over 400.
Oh, so it was over. Yeah, look, you'll take 5-1, but that was one of the most stressful 5-inning 1-run starts I feel like I've watched in some time.
I think it's most concerning out of any of the pitchers that it is for Bryce, because the way he pitches, more contact is not a good thing. So, like, he's a guy who throws high in the strike zone. He throws hard. He throws a high spin fastball, and he's gunning for swings and misses, especially with his fastball, which is his put away pitch. But when that pitch you don't swing and miss at it, it gets hit pretty hard. It comes in hard. It's a rising fastball, but it gets hit hard. It's not a ground ball pitch, so it gets hit in the air, and hard hits in the air for the most part will do damage. Right, like that's how baseball is played. Hit the ball in the air, hit it hard, and you're most likely going to do damage. And that's why Bryce Miller's tried introducing a sinker. It's had a varying level of success, helps him balance out when he doesn't get a bunch of punch outs. But Bryce Miller, like overall, like, so not only is his contact profile not situated to not strike guys out, but he's also just not striking guys out. It has been over a month since he struck out more than 7 guys in a start.
He really needs a third pitch, and that's going to happen this winter where he'll have more time to work on it, but it is very evident he could benefit from another pitch in that arsenal. We've talked about the idea of him adding a splitter before. I think this offseason he's got to commit to it.
Yeah, and if we think about the rest of the starters, I mean, guys like Luis, guys like George Kirby, they have sinkers that they use a lot, and that's not a strikeout pitch. That's a get contact pitch. That's a like trying to be more efficient with your pitch count, which, to be honest, over the last 5 turns in the rotation, the 5 starts in the rotation, we've been begging for some more efficiency, but we haven't really gotten it. So it is a balance, right? When you pitch to contact, sometimes you also just get unlucky. So that's kind of what's happened. But I am slightly concerned with the lack of strikeouts, because that is a signal for guys who are very much capable of getting strikeouts that the stuff is deteriorating down a little bit, which is not a good thing as you're in a division race.
Bryan Woo's velo has been trending down for a while now, which is not unexpected considering he is way past the inning total that we all thought he would throw this year. But if they're really going to rely on him and Bryce Miller down the stretch, they have got to find a way to catch a second wind here. And if you're the Mariners, you basically have to look at their starts as we need to split the Bryan Woo, Bryan Woo, Bryce Miller starts going forward, because you cannot just drop 2 in a row every 4th and 5th day out moving forward when you're in a pennant race and when you're in a division race and when you're trying to get into the playoffs. Bryan Woo and Bryce Miller need to find a way to catch a little bit of a wind again and get their swagger back. And the team is going to have to find a way to squeak out wins when those guys are on the mound.
How are they going to break those up? Like, they got to move one of them away from the other one in the rotation. Like, it has to happen.
Are they going to do that this late in the season?
Well, would you want them starting back-to-back games? They're going to have to start back-to-back games in this Rays series against a very good offense.
You don't have that many more off days to jumble your rotation around is the only thing. Now, maybe they use that Thursday off day before the Dodger series as a chance to reset a little bit. Maybe that's a way they can get Woo a few extra days rest, and then you do break those guys up. But time's running out. And if you decide to roll with the rotation that you have right now in the order that it's in, you're going to have to find a way to at least go 1-1 every 4th and 5th day, because you can't keep dropping 2 in a row if you want to get into the playoffs.
I know. I'm thinking about it in a bullpen sense, too, with the lack of off days. Having those 2 back-to-back where you don't know if you're even getting 4+, right? I think that's where our confidence level is at. Like 4+ with those guys on each of their starts. That's a lot to ask back-to-back days.
And let's clarify, long-term, we think both Bryce Miller and Bryan Woo are going to be vital pieces of this rotation. We just outlined on one of our previous shows how good Bryan Woo could be going forward and how just ridiculous his stuff is and how he's the perfect profile for the modern pitcher. This is not about their career trajectories. This is just about these guys have both exceeded what their innings totals were supposed to be in 2023, or at least what we thought it was going to be. Maybe Bryce had a longer leash than Woo because he was more built up. But this is the most they've ever thrown. They are starting to wear down a little bit, and this team has to win games to get into the playoffs. So it's just, for this season alone, yeah, it just gets a little bit nerve-wracking. This is not an indictment in any way on what they could be going forward.
Yeah. The Mariners need to win games right now, and tired rookie starting pitchers are unfortunately not a help to that. So we're gonna see how they manage it. I think they're gonna do something. I don't know what that something is. There are still guys they can call up to pitch if they absolutely need to. There still are. So we'll see what they'll dip into.
Who would that even be? I guess it would be like Tommy Malone or somebody at this point, but yeah.
Steven Kolick, maybe.
Yeah.
Someone in Tacoma.
It's too bad. They had that 6-man rotation idea just a few weeks ago, and now injuries have started to kind of build up a little bit. But you're right. We'll see where it goes. And hopefully the perfect solution would be Woo and Miller just find some life, and then you don't have to worry about this. But it'll be something to watch here going forward.